The topic of my talk today is new scientific knowledge, writing and publication. Okay, so the picture in the left, if you see, when the paper is accepted, am I audible clearly?
Yes, sir.
Okay, when the paper is accepted, then there's good music to our ears, but to reach that place, we have to go through a very tortuous route. And so yeah, you can see in the left side that we do need to need that our paper should be accepted once we write it. But we have to make a lot of effort to reach to that acceptance level. Okay. So before going to details, why I write new scientific knowledge, because scientific knowledge we say that it's already available. Until unless we have a new scientific knowledge, we should not think of writing and publishing. And this is the first process we should keep in mind. So until unless we know that we have something new to talk about, we should not talk. Okay. Before going in detail, let us go to the definition of science. Why science had to be written, and why we want to publish it. So before doing all those things, we should know what is the definition of science. We have to go back to our high school curriculum and see what is definition. So Oxford Advanced Learner Dictionary, they define science as knowledge about the structure and behavior of the natural and physical world based on facts that you can prove by experiments. Then Wikipedia, if you go to Wikipedia, you will see the science is systematic enterprise that builds and organizes knowledge in the form of universe, that is physical world. One more, science, any system of science is defined as any system of knowledge that is concerned with the physical world and its phenomena, and that entails unbiased observations and systematic experimentation. So you can look at in all these three definitions, they're talking about prediction, they're talking about systematic experiments, physical world, unbiased observation. That means we have to understand what science is. That is, we have to do experiments, we have to do prediction, we have to study it systematically, and we have to observe it in an unbiased way. So, what is a scientific process then? Obviously, as a human being, we go through different information from our surroundings that lead us to think. We give us a thought process, and that thinking makes us to hypothesize something. If just say we see something and we don't understand it, then what do? We just like a children, they start thinking, and then once they think, they hypothesize in their mind that okay, that will be the reason. So once they do that, then they again go to experiments. If whatever they are thinking, is it really correct or not? For that, to prove that, what do? You design an experiment or a set of experiments, and there you do the experiments and see in those experiments what is happening. When you observe the results or observe the phenomena and the outcome of that experiment, and that observation give you the data. Once you get the data, you try to analyze it. Then what this data stands for? What is the significance of the data? When you correlate your hypothesis and the analysis, then you come to a conclusion, and that becomes a rule for you. This is how Boyle's, just for example, Boyle's law, Charles' law, we study in our high school, but those are the conclusions, and these conclusions have been drawn by the scientists, and they have been after going through this process, so this is the whole scientific process. I would suggest all the audience who want to write a paper that this part of scientific process has to be imbibed so inherently in their mind. If they have this, then only they can write a good paper, otherwise not. So this is the basis. The understanding and definition and understanding the scientific process is the root of it, because the scientific process is a thought process. If your thought process is not clear and if it is not systematic, you cannot write a good scientific paper. This is for sure. Once you get these results, then what do? You are working for yourself, for curiosity, but you work for the people around, throughout the world, for the people in the world, for the mankind. So whatever you do as a human being, what is coming out from your mind, that should be beneficial for the people. So your data, your conclusions should be available, accessible to the people in the world, and this is why we think of writing and publishing our research article. Now, how many different kinds of researches are there? There may be basic science, there may be applied sciences. Basic sciences answer for the question why, but applied sciences, they answer the question how. So you may be coming out with some scientific understanding in basic sciences, but this scientific understanding, how it can be translated in a physical system, this is called applied science. When basic science and applied science, they come together, then there is engineering development of this. The whole process of the mankind, where we are going to, just say Government of India says Atmanirbhar. So in Atmanirbhar, we have to assimilate the basic science, applied science, and give it to the engineers. They develop something. So this is what it is. And this is a chain, this is a cycle. Means once you go to development, then there may be something wrong. Then again you go to your basic sciences, or in applied science, then again you go to back to your basic sciences and see where you went wrong. But it's not only there. There may be feedback chains in all basic sciences, applied sciences, and development engineering. Once you do something, if something goes wrong, that becomes a feedback for the initiation of your process. Okay, so this is how the research cycle works, and these basic and applied research activities are intertwined, and they collectively drive the development activities. Now, if you see this, we have understood the science, we have understood the what research is. Now, why do we want to write and speak, for example? So here, this is a picture where a single person or a group of people, they may be having a lot of information from surroundings, and what happens, this information is processed in their mind, and once they process this information, what happens? These information, once processed, they give a stream of thoughts in the mind of people, and when they get the thought, they want to bring the thought to action, or they speak or they write. Now they have to ask a question to themselves, that whether whatever they want to do, is it good for the mankind? If it is not good for the mankind, they should keep silent, and if they feel that it is good for the mankind, then they are allowed to speak as well as write. Whether it is good for the mankind or not, it depends upon the perception of the person, no doubt. And this perception varies from person to person. Even then, good is good, everybody knows. Now, justification of being a scientist or researchers lies not only in the quality of the ideas in your head. Even if I have a very good idea, or I have very large amount of data in my hand, what is the use of this? There is no use. And provided it is good for the people. So if I have something good for the people, it should go to the people. And this is why we should disseminate that idea or data, whatever we have, and interpretation from the data, what we get in our mind, that should be shared with the people, with other peers, or those who would like to have those data. Just to ensure, am I audible clearly? Hello?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay, now I go ahead. Why do we publish them? First of all, if we do some research, and what do? We record of research to be augmented. So whatever research is available in the world that is augmented by my research, this is one purpose. And whatever ideas and results I have, that should go to the people and I get recognition. And it may attract others to join that research area and work in that and further augment the that research area. Or I may require expert feedback from people, and it may be necessary that people should legitimize my research, say that, okay, you have done a very good thing. But what happens, it's not that easy. There are large number of people who are there to judge us through our writing. Whatever we write, they are there to judge us like this. I, as a patient, my paper is judged by different reviewers, editors, and they see what is wrong, whether it has to be legitimized or not. So all these things goes on. So these are 5 elements which are very positive. That this is what we follow, the reason behind publishing. And there are other reasons also. What are the reasons? That perish, publish or perish. If you are working in just say NIT, I know I should expect that you would have some pressure of publishing. If you don't publish, you're not going to get promoted, something like that. In many of the institutes, a good professor is selected, and once they are not publishing, they say, Professor, you were here for publishing, you know that? If not, then what to do? Such kind of things are always there in our mind, and here are some reasons other than what the previous 5 reasons I have given, that there is professional pressure. Means in a profession for progression, promotion, all those things, you require that publication. For your career aspiration, you want to have better career, then you want to publish. You want international recognition in your peers. Then you say that, okay, I have to publish good papers so that I can be recognized. Or you maybe your, just say, your colleague is publishing heavily, but you are not. That also gives a pressure to you that you have to publish. When you publish, then you are recognized and you get funding or you get visibility. There are a number of other reasons behind publishing these days. As in the last lecture, Professor Mukesh Singh, he was talking about. So he was very clear that what people do under this pressure, how people do wrong things. So what happens, the pressure to publish constantly to succeed in or sustain an academic career impacts scholarly output. So pressure is good to perform, but it should not be to a level where if you don't publish, you should perish. So this is one of the other reasons. So now we will be talking about the publication. What kind of publication, why we should do it, what a publication looks like, and what should be the characteristics of a publication when you write it. Before doing that, I should make it clear that even if your paper is accepted and published, don't be satisfied. The writing, the clarity, the content of the paper, everything counts. It may be the fault of editor or reviewer that your paper get published, but that doesn't mean your paper is good. So the goodness of a paper, the responsibility lies with you. So if you are writing, just get not satisfied by paper is published now, I should be happy. No, you should be happy only when people come and appreciate that you have written a very good paper, it seems. Then you should be satisfied. So what should be the characteristic of good scientific paper? First of all, it should be a whole, it should give explanation to the whole purpose of the paper. The people should understand that what purpose is. There should be orderliness in the presentation and organization. There should be a connectivity of what we are talking about, right from introducing the subject to the final conclusion. And it should reflect the clarity of your thought, as I mentioned earlier. If you know the science definition and you have worked clearly following the scientific process, then there will be a clarity of thought. There should be impartial data generation and interpretation. That means your personal thought process should not be interfering with the data and interpretation. You should make always objective statements. Means you should not be afraid of people, or just for example, objective statement what? It means if your results are not in conformity with some other big shot, then you shy of writing those things, but not based on your evidence. You can, this is academic writing. You there is no hierarchy. Many people, even if the professor is very big shot, you have always the right to use your evidence and say no, you are incorrect. So you have to always make objective statements. And your scientific writing should have simple explanations based on evidence. Don't complicate it for the people. You are writing for the people to understand, so it's better to always be simple as much as possible. And your paper should be complete in all respects: statements, logic, conclusion, etc. It should be precise, consistent, persuasive, and coherent. Means you should not write too many things. Just think what is necessary, and a person knows if there is a thought clarity. The clarity makes the writing precise, persuasive, and coherent. And the last, it should be accurate and repeatable. Your experiments, your results should be repeatable by other people. If it is not, that is a fault of the scientific process we have adopted. Now, even if you try to write that way to your satisfaction, even then papers may be rejected. And so we should know, we should not get ourselves dejected by the rejection, but we should think what wrong went with me, so that this is why paper rejected. So we should not get dejected, but you should be inspired to do more and more, to write better and better. Okay. So what are the reasons, common reasons for the rejection of a manuscript? There are three aspects of it. One is quality of the research. Second is writing and presentation. And third is journal and editor specific. Here I would say that many of the things what I am talking about is already available in the internet. So anyone can go to internet and find out all the things. Okay, but the important thing is, I would like to share my experience. That is more important compared to bringing the literature and telling you what is what. Okay, so there are a large number of reasons for a rejection. I will take only those which are really applicable to you. For example, in quality of research, lack of originality and novelty, that is our own baby. Flaw in the design of the study, this is what it's our fault. Okay, whatever we study, whether there is practical or theoretical implication is there or not, that is another issue. Writing and presentation, so poor writing and poor organization, so it is our fault. If it is inadequate manuscript preparation, that is our fault. So non-conformity with ethics. So Dr. Singh has already talked about all these things about ethics. So I will not be going in detail in this. And journal and editor specific. So if you go to internet, you can find all this thing in there. So what is the scope of journal? What is the space constraints? Means in real hard copy publication, there is always space constraints. So not all the papers can be accepted. Quality and experience of reviewers, it depends. If reviewer is very lenient, your paper get published, but the quality of the paper will actually harm your reputation, because you publish such garbage. So it depends upon the reviewers that how your paper would, what kind of paper of yours will be accepted. And that is also one of the very important thing to keep in mind. Okay, and there are general decision-making policies also there. Okay, now I will be taking only 3-4 areas of quality of research and writing and presentation to make us understand that what should we do. So first of all, lack of originality and novelty. So how do we know that originality and novelty is lacking? So results cannot be generalized. Methods used are obsolete. So we are not using the new equipments or new techniques. Obvious and predictable results means whatever the results coming out, even a layman can say that, okay, I expected this. What is new in that? Similarly, replication of existing knowledge without new addition. So there are, as I told you in the first slide, new, why I put new, there are existing knowledge. If we are just trying to say that we also got the same thing, there is no use. We have to say, what is the new addition I have done? And then reported as novel by extending to others. Just for example, we say something that this is new. This was applicable in metallurgy, now it is applicable to mineral engineering also. That then make a case for a paper to be published. So if you have faulty design of the study, means you poorly formulated problem or question, means the problem we set is not good, then it may be rejected. Conceptually inappropriate approach to answer, means whatever problem we decided that this problem we are going to study, then the approach to answer those problems we take, it is not correct, then also it may be rejected. Unreliable methods of experiments. In experiments, what we do, that is that gives unreliable results. That may be one reason. Inappropriate analysis and incomplete data, that is for sure. And suboptimal instrumentation means we use instruments or equipment to collect the data, but those data is not obtained by the equipment which is good at all. So what we say, or we have not used enough number of instruments which is required to reach to a conclusion. So that may one the reason for rejection. Okay, and there may be one or more than one one reasons for rejection, but sometimes you get a letter of from the editor that you have to revise. So if you do some fault at some place, you may be given a chance to revise the manuscript later, giving you the feedback from the reviewer. So that means if we are faulty and at this position, we need to work on our research skill first of all. Then there may be poor writing in organization. So in this case, Uh, for example, methods and materials, we don't give all the details. Discussion does not interpret the results. Discussion is mean for enumerating the interpretation of the results, but we don't do that. Insufficient rationale for the study, so you don't know why you did it, and you are not able to convey it properly to the reviewer or editor. Insufficient literature review, as Dr. Singh said in the beginning, that if you don't have clear-cut view of what is the current status of literature in your area, then also it may be rejected. Then conclusions not supported by the data, and introduction does not establish the background and problem statement. So you do all the research, but you are not able to convince the reader or the reviewer that what is the background and why, what for I am doing that. So that also leads to rejection. Failure to see a broader perspective. That what it means actually means in the discussion when your results are there and you are trying to interpret it, but you are not able to bring those significance of those results in a broader perspective of implication of how it is going to change the world, or how it is going to change the area of research, at least how it is going to contribute to the area of research. That is other thing. Inadequate preparation of a manuscript means sentences are not clear or very big, lack of brevity, persuasiveness, and consistency, excessive use of jargons or wordiness, no, not required at all. Don't be so wordy in your manuscript. Be specific. Large number of careless errors. This is one of the most important, in my opinion, when I see the papers, when I review it, I see the moment I see careless errors in the manuscript, 80% chances are that I'm going to go against to the paper, because careless error, it reflects the casual nature of the author. So never ever do casual mistakes. We have to be very careful with these casual mistakes. And poorly designed figures and tables. Anyway, that is not the major reason for me at least to reject. Just suggestion will be enough. Now, we go to psychological barrier. We want to write, but there are some reasons that we are not able to write properly. Why? We don't want to write. Why? Because we blame it on education, that in our school I did not study that, in our college I did not study that. It's not enough. Main thing is we have psychological blocks that play a big role in our action. So we have to come out from the psychological blocks and meet the challenges upfront. Okay, so what are the barriers? Overestimation of deficiencies. We can do it, but we think that, okay, I'm not good at it. No, we should not think I'm not good at it. You are good at it. Only the thing is, effort is necessary to do good. That is the thing. And sometimes we don't get the purpose of writing. Why I'm writing? So find a purpose for writing. Fear of criticism. Don't fear anybody. You write means whenever you write, even if you are criticized, that criticism is good for you, for your improvement. Lack of well-done reception. So if somebody does not say well done, don't get demoralized. Keep on working. No writing experience. No, experience comes after writing. Demotivated due to rejection. As I told in the beginning, don't get dejected or demotivated. Get the inspiration to do better and better. No, not needed for promotion. Somebody says, oh, it's not needed for promotion, so I don't want to publish. Please don't do that. If you are doing science, you must write. That has to be kept in mind. Lack of good mentorship. Yeah, this is a problem. If you don't get good mentorship, then there is problem, but it's not necessary that you can't do by yourself. Lacking self-motivation. It's your personal choice to get motivated or not. So these psychological barriers hamper us in writing properly, making a good manuscript and doing good research. So now I come to the structure of a scientific article. Uh, so this consists of an abstract, introduction, materials and methods, results, decision and conclusion. In this, the results are one of the most important things based on what you do other things. And looking at the results, you and your data, you write introduction, materials, decision, and conclusion. So everything in the manuscript must relate to the data and analysis presented in the results section. Okay. The introduction begins in introduction. You begin with a very broad sentences saying that okay, you take care of the whole world, and then you bring it down and end the introduction with a focus statement where you say, I want to do that, often stating the aim and purpose of your study. Background information and previous works are woven together in between to logically connect the problem. Means in your intro, I will come to that later, how to write introduction. The method is a testimony to the credibility of the results. Means you have to write materials and methods because people know what methods have been used and whether it is the methods are good to get the is it scientifically okay or not. The decision part, this addresses the broader issues that one raises in the introduction. And it shows how the research is important in the bigger picture. That means in the introduction we raise this question, and by the time we come to the decision to discuss the results, we know the bigger picture of how our research or the data and results and interpretation what we make from the results, they are going to help a bigger help in the bigger picture of the research area or the world altogether. Okay, and in conclusion, it gives the core of the study with direction to the future in the very specific area of research. Okay, now in the same line, structure of scientific article, there are two different ways of this. You know, Louis Pasteur, he is the person who first wrote in this manner. There are two different ways of publishing, of structuring your article: abstract, introduction, method, result, and decision. You should see the introduction and the decision. There are two broad columns. What it says: introduction, you start from very broad and then come down to focus somewhere, and once you get the results and interpret it, the results determine the broader perspective of decision. So you have once you start from broad, then you focus, do the result, do the research, and then from that interpretation of the research, you look at a very broad area of how you are going to affect the world or the research area. Okay, in this case, in the first case, results and decision are separate, and in other case, where results and decision can be combined together. Anyway, different journals, they have different way of accepting, but in my experience, even if you in the same journal, if you write in two different ways, sometimes they are accepted. Okay. Now, it's very important is the story. When you are writing, you should always think of a story. Once you make a story, it will be interesting for the people, for the reader, for the editor, for the reviewer. So, write your manuscript as a gripping story, and the success of a manuscript based on 6 things. It should be simple. It should have some things which is unexpected by the reviewer or the editor. It should be concrete in all respect. it should be credible. Means all the data you have given should be, people should believe on that. And fifth is the emotional. In science, we don't care for the emotion, but we do care for the curiosity. So if you are curious, then you will like the story. Sure. Okay. So you need not be careful of the reader's emotion, but you should be careful for the curiosity of the reader, and accordingly you should write a paper so that he keeps on reading your paper through the up to the end and out of curiosity. Okay. Now just see this blue line. If this is your whole manuscript, so once you start writing, open it, build tension in the mind of the reviewer or reader, and then go to the peak and relieve tension, and finally give him the conclusion. This is what a good paper is. But what happens? A good paper is made of several sections, paragraphs, and sentences. So what I want to bring it here, that each and every sentence of yours, very small sentences, they should be interconnected. And each paragraph should be interconnected. Similarly, each section should be interconnected. And finally, your whole manuscript will be interconnected, and that will give that answer to the curiosity of the reader. Okay, and this is how we should write a paper. Okay, before writing, I should suggest you all to check for the answers of the following questions before you start writing. Why do I want to publish my research work? Is there something new and interesting in it? Is it a relevant topic for research community or society? Am I providing a solution to a difficult problem? Do I have everything ready to go for publication? Does the findings make a complete story? And have the findings been verified? So if all the questions you get convinced with your answers, then you have all the right to commence writing your manuscript. And once you write, then you know there are so many things you can take care of and in the structure, but you should start from the figures and tables first, then write methods, results, and decision, write conclusion and introduction. Title and abstract should be written in last. So when you go to your professor and ask, should I start writing paper? Then he says, no, please make figures first. Okay. Now, how to introduce your paper? First of all, there are 5 stages. Provide context of the problem to be investigated in a given field of research, means why we are doing it, background and its importance. Then provide the details of the studies already done in your research area and the information already known from the studies. So you start from a broad context, then in that area you say that this work has been done, this has not been done, and then you find a gap or niche area where you would like to enter into, and then finally once you you decided that this gap area you are going to address, then set your objectives. And these all things have to go into an introduction so that the reader understands the whole thing you are going to talk about in the paper. Okay, so it should be just like a funnel. You have to put the known facts, context, why you need to research in some area, that is gap areas, and finally decide purpose, objective, and justification for your paper. There are 5 different ways of doing it. I think I may not have enough time to do that, but I think if you want, I can share the slides, or I am keeping it for some time so that you can take a screenshot. You can go through it by yourself. The main thing is that it should be linked the broad and specific information. You have to use references in a very careful manner. And overall, introduction, what we talk, keep the curiosity of the reader intact. Okay. Now, results. So how to report the results? So for reporting the result, uh, this is the backbone and the key driver of a manuscript. And before you start writing the result, you should look at your data, sort the figures and tables in best order so that you can plan your writing. Connect the pieces of the data that put in an order in which order I had to go. Talk to your co-authors, find the editorial paper. After talking to your co-authors, you can know that, okay, this is the way we have to go further to write it. Okay. And ask the following questions to yourself. What is the aim of the data generated? What are the important points that form the story? And what is all the take-home message or messages? So if that you are able to answer those questions to yourself, then you are ready to write the results. But never ever give all the data you have in your results. In the right picture, you can see this is an iceberg. In the iceberg, whole iceberg is the data if you assume, and the only thing what is visible is results. So all the data what you have noted down in the notebooks, whatever is important, that should come out. So that should be the representative data of your research. Okay, so this is how you report your results, and you have to describe the findings from experiments given in the method section. Highlight the findings which is different from the previous publication. Many people would have been working in your area of the research and seen. You should highlight those things. Do not interpret data in the result section. Write in a very plain manner what you saw, what you observed. Never say anything about what is the significance of that data in the result section at least. And you put the results of the statistical analysis. Here, be neutral, report as found. Means you don't judge in your mind that whether this is good data or bad data. Don't think of it at all. Just report it as and what you have found. And in all these, use past tense. Do not omit data for not supporting the hypothesis. It may be possible that this is unable. So the reader as a representative. Selection is not the hiding. You select very carefully, and that should be representative of your research. And there are different ways why you should make tables and figures, and when should you use tables and figures, and how you should do that. I will not go to the details in how, but when you want to record the data and you want to show the raw data to the reviewer or the reader, then you use tables. You show the actual data and values and the precision if you want, then you use table. And if you want to give multiple comparisons between elements in many directions, then you use table. Means there are different variables, different parameters, what you cannot put in figures, so then you go for tables. And figures are basically used for showing the trend, simple comparisons between only a few elements, and to comprehend the story, so shape, that is pattern. So then you use figures. And obviously, I would emphasize here that today in the today's scientific community, what I have seen the students, they give least importance to figures and tables because it's the casualness of the students. All the students, I request here that please don't be casual with the figures and tables. The formatting and appealing nature of your tables and figures is very important. The descriptiveness of your figures table is very important. Look at it very carefully. That increases the chance of paper to be taken positively by the reviewers. So please do that. And here it says that make them self-explanatory. So whatever table and figures you make, it should be self-explanatory. You should not write too much about it in your text. And discuss the results. So how to discuss it? Interpret the findings, evaluate their significance, and examine the implications in a broader perspective. The writing decision is most challenging section and requires much of your effort after the experiments, and it demonstrates how well one understands the results. And you know, many of the times, based on the poor decision, the paper is rejected. In my case, I see decision as one of the most important thing in the paper. If I don't see proper decision, it goes negative with me. So components of decision, what should it contain? Decision should clearly connect with the issues raised in the introduction, means where you define the problem and now you are going to answer those questions using your interpreted data. Interpretation and meaning of the results obtained, that you have to include in that. Significance of the results in a broader perspective. That means how your results are going to affect your research area. And comparison of results with already published data. Whatever data you have published, whether it is matching with other people, or it is qualifying other people, or it is something different, and then you need explanation for limitation of the results in generalization. You should tell where the results cannot be generalized, because you have to give that in such a condition, these results are not applicable. And suggestion for future research, if any, if you have something. Okay. Now, materials, methods and materials. So this is basically the recipe or cookbook employed for obtaining the results of observation, and any insufficient information on this count may lead to rejection of the manuscript. And this should contain material specification, source of material, quantity of material used, methods of preparation of the material, purity of the material, precautions for hazardous materials, and all those things. Okay. And measurement tools employed. What are the equipment you have used in chronological order? Their model and parameters used. All these things have to be given in methods and materials. Limitations of the equipment used, and step-by-step procedure for sample preparation. If there is a way, if there is a element of sample preparation in your research or sample design, then you have to give a step-by-step procedure. Softwares, whatever you have used, and all important details required for reproducing the results. All the data you give in this section should be enough for reproducing the results. So if anybody want to reproduce or repeat your experiments and get the same results, they should be able to do that. So tell the reader everything they need to interpret and repeat your experiments. How to conclude the study? Obviously, it's a summary of all that has been said thus far in the manuscript. And here you have to restate the research question and major findings. You make clear the contribution made to the available literature. You bring out the limitations of your study, means against generalization, as I told in the beginning. In such and such cases, these results obtained in the study is not applicable. I think already 10 minutes are left, I think. Vipin?
Yes, sir. Oh, yeah.
Yeah, 10 minutes are left.
Five to
Yeah,
10 minutes. Please try to complete it, sir.
yeah, 10 minutes. That's all.
Okay, okay, fine. Thank you, sir.
Yeah. So do not introduce new arguments in the conclusion section, and do not summarize the manuscript here. Just salient points, and try avoiding judgments on the impact of study. So this is here conclusion you have write an abstract of the study. So I'll just read it out. An abstract gives the authors an opportunity to attract the reader into the study and make him read the rest of the article. Not only that, abstract can be used, for example, uh, abstracts are published in different places, and if a person doesn't have access to the full article, then he can just go to abstract and see what has been done. So abstract should be self-explanatory, and it should contain main points of your research. So it is written in third person. It gives the glance of what the article contains, gives a concise but complete picture of the study, and it stands alone and succinct. That means if I don't have the full paper, then also abstract says everything about the paper, and it is clear. So it gives the background, it gives the principal activity, some information on methods used, and important results and conclusions. So abstract is standalone, and we should be able to write an abstract within 300 to 500 words. And for this purpose, past tense is used in most of the results, most of the abstract. And now, after doing all these things, we should be seeing how a complete writing process takes place. So this is the process where we start with pre-writing. We first thing, you put words on paper, decide on the objectives and audience, and then you start writing. That is called pre-writing. And then you write it with your ideas, and you make a first draft of this, and then you give it to your then you take yourself and again see it critically, revise yourself, or you may give to your colleagues, your co-authors to look at it. Then you rewrite, and then again after rewriting you revise it and keep the cycle on until you are satisfied. And once you are satisfied with your rewriting, then don't revise, and final revision you do, and do a proofreading and send it for publication. So this is what is called a path to publication. Okay, and whenever you are doing this, try to see whether you are really answering all the questions of referee's criteria, whatever for he will be looking at your manuscript. So is the contribution new? Is the contribution significant? Is the organization acceptable? These are the questions publishers ask reviewers or referees to answer. Okay, so once you know the reviewer is going to see all those things, so you should be able to answer these questions satisfactorily in your manuscript. So conclusions, illustrations, figures, tables, all things have to be clearly spelled out so that referees, they accept your paper. Okay, and when doing this, avoid plagiarism. So I don't want to talk much on this, because already in the ethics section, plagiarism has been taken care of. So I just request you all to avoid plagiarism, because this gives a bad name, and once a person is plagiarizing, what happens? He doesn't learn. So if I want to learn, I will never go for using others' work. I will do it myself. So ethically, if I am ethical, I would surely avoid plagiarism or using others' work. Okay. So no cut and paste. And what gets me accepted? So here this is a list of things which you need to do before you get the acceptance letter, and it is enumerated by Nigel John Cook, who happened to be the chief editor of a journal. So attention to details, check and double check your work, consider the reviewers' comments very carefully. Don't be defensive after getting the reviewers' comments. Hmm. Answer it very carefully. English must be good as much as possible. Presentation is important in the manuscript. Take your time with revision. Revise several times. Every time you read your own manuscript, you will find some deficiency. So revise several times, 4-5 times at least. Acknowledge those who have helped you. New, original, and previously unpublished work. Critically evaluate your manuscript, and ethics rule must be obeyed. So these are the things we have to take care if we want our manuscript to be accepted for publication. To summarize, I would say a scientific manuscript preparation becomes easy after imbibing the understanding of scientific processes as a whole. And the structure of a manuscript clearly brings out the step-by-step follow-up of a scientific process based on definition of science itself. Abstract, if you see AIMRADC, abstract, introduction, methods, research and discussion, results and discussion, and conclusion. So this is made based on the definition of science. So researchers must write, and any impediment coming in the way must be addressed. Continuous self-improvement is the key for good publishing experience. With this, I would like to thank you all, and I'll say think calmly, build a strong foundation for you, and turn them into wings. Thank you very much.